What's going on, guys? We're going over the 4-2-2 custom tactics. Now, don't knock this formation, especially half wingers. People keep saying half wingers. What are they? Why would I use them? But they're actually very, very good. If you've known me for a long time, you've been probably realizing since the first week I've been playing the 4-2-2. Actually, the best weekend leagues I've ever got have been with the 4-2-2 for my playstyle. Look, the one benefit we have with this one is it basically plays like an advanced 4-4-2. That's what we wanted to create. Why did I want to do that? It's because the 4-4-2 flat, as we know, 4-4-2 flat has centre mids. Now, how many of you struggle defensively with centre mids? Maybe for attacking or when you're losing inside the game, using the 4-2-2 or 4-4-2, should I say mainly, that's fine. But when you start the game with a 4-4-2 against a better player, that's the key, a better player, that's where you struggle. So keeping those CDMs are so important. You would know this yourself. Think about this. Have you ever gone into a game with a 4-4-2? You've just been absolutely cooked. And that's mainly because you're playing someone on the same level as you. If you're using a 4-4-2 and you're a good player and you play against a weak opponent like you would in a weekend league, that is when you can beat them. But when you play someone that's the same level or a level above you and you use a 4-4-2 flat, that is where you will struggle. That is why I think the 4-4-2 flat with centre mids, professional players, top tier elite players, they can play with it fine for all aspects of the game. But you give a 4-4-2 someone in Division 2, Division 1, even in elite level, the beginning elite level, they struggle because in FUT Champions, a range of players. It's not just people on the same level as you. It's people that are worse than you and people that are much better than you. That's something just to bear in mind. And people have been always asking that. It's something I've been noticing when I've been doing my coaching as well. So, you want to get better at FC25 now? Before you skip ahead, what if I told you if you don't get better after 1 month, I'll refund your money? That's the Nil Guides guarantee. We got in-depth tutorials that are not even on the YouTube channel. We show you the theory of something and we show you gameplay examples in a structured format. We also go over real-life football examples that apply to the game and exclusive pro gameplay analysis, full gameplay analysis to elevate your game. We teach you everything from the basics to the meta. Come join at patreon.com/NilGuys. Links down below in the description. If you don't get better after 1 month, we'll refund your money. That's the Nil Guys guarantee. Links down below in the description. Both the strikers, we've got 2 strikers here. One of them is advanced forward, one of them is on poacher. As you can see, plus is what we've gone for. This is what I would highly recommend. I think at this stage of the game, plus is what you'd want for all your attacking players. Remember this key rule. Anyone that's moving out of their position or in and out of the position, both in the defensive and the offensive phase, should always have a plus at this stage of the year. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, we've got half wingers here, right? Because they're moving without the ball in a defensive shape as kind of like central cams almost, and then they become the wider left mids and right mids, they are moving. With the plus, the faster they move, okay? Same with, for example, a wing back. If you have someone like an attacking wing back or someone going forward, any type of movement, because with the ball, they're going to go forward. When you lose the ball, you want them to return back into position. So think of it like work rate. So without the ball and with the ball, the transition is also determined by the roll plus and the defense awareness and attacking awareness. So just bear that in mind. That is why you can see most of these players here are on a plus. So we've gone with 1 poacher, 1 advanced forward. If you have no idea what advanced forward and poacher does, just put 1 on each. I like it because you get that unique movement. I understand why people use both of them on advanced forward, and that's completely fine. But I like to have 2 different movements. Sometimes if my opponent's doing an offside trap, I want, for example, Correa. Oh, by the way, what an evolution card that was. I did it with, this was done with, the FUT Birthday finale, and it was done with the clinical finisher as well. But do you understand what I mean? So when my opponent's doing an offside trap, and let's say the defensive line is shifting from position 1 to position number 2, I want someone that's running in behind or trying to beat the offside trap as well at the same time. You will know I'm talking about when people do offside traps. So that is why I use a combination of both. That way I've got 2 different types of movement, not 2 players doing the exact same thing. Do you see what I mean? So for the wide cams, as I mentioned, they're half wingers. Now, this is what's important. I understand the element, look, and I would personally use shadow striker, but for too many players, this is too attacking. Now, why is this too attacking is when you lose the ball, shadow strikers, they stay forward. Think of this like inside forwards on roaming or attack. Whenever you win the ball back, sometimes you find that if you compare your CDMs, because don't forget, center mids, they sit higher, CDMs are naturally going to be more defensive. Then when you try to ping the ball up to your lamb and your ram, they're going to be too far ahead. So the benefit of using something like a playmaker here or using a half winger is they're basically in a halfway point. So they basically go forward a little bit, but also they stay a bit reserved. So that way when you're building up, they're closer to your defensive line. So that is why I like it. I've talked about what I've liked. I talked about how I use a shadow striker kind of being like a 3-5-2. And I mentioned that in another video. You can basically make this into a 3-5-2 by doing something like this. I've already made a video on this last week, or not last week, maybe the week before. This is a 3-5-2 solution. We are not doing that today. We're just doing a traditional wing back, and I'll explain that in a second. But I put these players back to this position, but I would say putting them both on half winger. As I said, they basically start centrally off, but then they go to those wide positions. It kind of helps you to go in between the half space a lot more. They don't play as left mids and right mids. They kind of play in between playmaker cams and left mids and right mids. Try it. You'll be honestly surprised how good these players are, especially when they move into those positions, because they start in the center, then they move out wide. For both the CDMs, you've gone with deep line playmaker. You could also go with holding, but I think just from a defensive standpoint, deep line playmaker is what most people are leaning towards. And I would say for CDMs, I would say this alongside holding are probably the best positions that you could use. I think people probably don't use holding that much. It's because they naturally sit a bit higher, although I do think it's better. I think for the general public and the masses, I would say deep line playmaker is the way to go. But as I always say to you, adjust it for your playstyle. Don't just copy a code and think it's going to work for you. Yes, it might work as a template, but you always got to fine tune those small things. We've got both these players on wing back. This is where this formation really comes alive, because the deep line playmakers sit a bit deeper. The wing backs, they can go forward, and you basically have that midfield of 4. They're not going too far forward. They basically, I would say, if you imagine on the pitch, they go up to like this point on just in front of the halfway line. They don't really go beyond that unless you trigger that player. So when you lose the ball, they can come back. That's why I said to you the importance of the roll plus plus. So when you lose the ball, they get back in position, and equally when you win the ball back again, they go forward in position. Do you understand? So think of the roll plus plus as like the high highs work rates from the olden days. And of course, both the defenders on defend, and goalkeepers, to be honest, now I'm leaning for the last month or so. I don't really use sweeper keeper. I personally just use goalkeeper, defender, defend. Let them stay where they are. I can always bring them back when I need to. Then we go into tactics. So the build-up style is counter. I still think it's the best, as I mentioned to you, especially with a lack of L1 triggers and a lack of player locks. If you don't use a lot of player locks and L1 triggers, you should be using counter unless you're playing a very progressive style of system. I think people, they associate counter with, I'm going to play counter-attack football only. All it means is players are making runs in behind. It's kind of like long ball from last year. Remember how long ball, when I first was using it all the time, everyone's like, I don't play long ball, but I was explaining it's for L1 triggers. Then after you saw everyone else start using long ball, most people use it, even pros are using long ball as well. The defensive approach. Now, this one you have two options. I think to start the game with, because you have CDMs, I think you can afford to go to a higher level around about 75. 70, 75 is completely fine. I think we all know how the defensive approach being high and aggressive can really help you be on the front foot, especially if you're playing against someone who's not that good of a player, but they can sometimes get that RNG. With a high defensive approach, you kind of choke them defensively and you give them no space to maneuver the ball. But I would say is for the better players out there, just for quick numbers to remember, 95. So you could use either 75 or 95. I think start it with 75. But let's say you use the 4-2-1-3 and then you use an aggressive depth and you're quite natural with it, I would definitely recommend 95. So that one would purely depend on you. Remember I said it's like a seat in a car. You know, if you have your partner and you have different seat positions, because everyone is different. So you might be good, for example, the person watching this right now at being aggressive, but maybe someone else watching this, they use aggressive, they run out with their centre back, they'll concede 5 goals behind, they write down a competition. Oh my God, the tactic sucks when they really suck. There you go, a little bit of a nil guy's truth. But remember, adapt it to your own playstyle is what I'm trying to say to you. So these are the staple that you can use. That's the code as well. Hotel Sierra, $5, capital Mike, 6, capital Golf, Papa Romeo Foxtrot, capital Juliet would be the code as well. And as I said to you, look, what's the difference between this and a 4-2-1-3? As I said, there's no cam. There's no central player for that cam. So I know a lot of people like that. If you do, like, let's say you like attacking down one side, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but you don't like going to the 3-5-2 completely, what you can do is something like this. So let's say, for example, you always attack down the right-hand side. Let me give you just a little no guys top tip. Let's say you attack always down the right-hand side. You will notice yourself. You can put one of these players as a half winger. That way they're playing on that wide position. Then you have a kind of a 3-5-2 without the 3-5-2. And then you can put, for example, a wing back. Or if you want to, you can even leave this player on this side as well. So that way you can defend with your 2 CDMs. you can defend with your back four, but that way you have a shadow striker and then you have like a 3-5-2 without the left mid. And if you want to, as I said, you could always bring this player going forward to make it like a 3-5-2. But if you don't want that, but let's say you want to attack down one side, I think most people, if I'm not mistaken, naturally they attack down the right hand side, or normally it's the side closer to the bottom of the screen. Don't forget, when you start the game, if you shoot from, let's say, the center circle, you shoot from left to right, normally on the bottom side of the pitch is where we naturally, as humans, we naturally tend to attack, because that's closest to us. We see more of that side of the pitch. So that's why I say most people actually attack down the right hand side. So that's why you could also use this as well. I mean, you don't need a code for this, you can just change it yourself, but if you do, that's the code for that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you want to get better FC, it comes from my Patreon, patreon.com/NeilGuides. Don't forget, we've also got the Division 10 to Elite Division series showing you every single game from Division 10 to the Elite Division. I know everyone's been loving that series, showing every single game with the control inputs so you can see exactly what I'm pressing. Link is down below in the description. Thanks for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.